This is a lesson for Chapter 4, Section 7, titled Writing Equations in Point-Slope Form, Day 1. Let's take a look at our first type of problem, and here it's asking us, giving us a slope and a point. And that's what point-slope form is we need a point and the slope, and we can write an equation for it. So here is our point-slope form. It goes this way: y minus y1 equals m times by x minus x1. And so what we're going to end up using are the y1 value, the slope, and the x1 value. So our point goes in place of the x1, y1, and our slope goes in place of m here. This y value is our output, and this will be our input. So let's start with this. First thing we need to do is figure out what point this is. So this is 4 spaces to the left, and it is 6 spaces up. So that's what that point is. And I'm going to go ahead and substitute that point into this equation. So y minus y1 equals m times by x minus x1. So when I do this, I rewrite y minus, but then I put the point, the 6, that's the y value, equals the slope, which is negative 2, and I do x minus negative 4. So when you have one of these minus negatives, you can change it to plus positive. And then we have this, y minus 6 equals negative 2 times by x plus 4. And this is the point-slope form. This is all they're asking for in this case, is just to write it in this form. We don't need to modify it at all or distribute or solve for y in this case. So this is point-slope form. So the next one, same sort of thing. We're going to go ahead and take this point. And again, if we were to, before I move on to that one, if I was to graph this, this is what that line would look like. 2 spaces down, 1 space to the right. And so you can see it ends up going like this. And it does end up crossing at negative 2, so I know this form, if I was to write it in slope-intercept form, would have that slope and the y-intercept of negative 2. And so I know it's going to be this, y equals negative 2x minus 2. And if I go ahead and distribute, and actually I'll go ahead and do that just to see what it ends up making. Y minus 6 equals negative 2x minus 8. Got the minus 8 because negative 2 times 4 makes negative 8. And if I add the 6 to both sides, I end up getting y equals negative 2x minus 2. The same answer I got when I used the y-intercept and the slope to write the equation of that line. So this is called slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. And then I also have the point-slope form up top, where I do not modify it. So we're going to just write this next one in the slope, or the point-slope form. We're taking that 1/3 and the point, which is 3 spaces right and 2 spaces up, and plugging it into point-slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I end up with y minus 2 equals the slope of 1/3 times by x minus 3. And so that's the answer in the point-slope form. And if I was to modify it, to put it into slope-intercept, I would have to distribute. So I'd have y minus 2 equals 1/3 x minus 1. 1/3 of 3 is 1. And then I have to add the 2 to both sides. And I have opposite signs there, so I end up having to subtract. Y equals 1/3 x plus 1. So that's what the equation would be in slope-intercept form. And you could see it if I went ahead and used the slope. If I went up 1 over 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, I'd put the point here. And if I go down 1 over 3, I'd put a point right here. You can see how it does end up crossing right at the y-intercept of positive 1. Well, these problems just ask for the point-slope form, and they want us to write an equation given the slope that passes through the given point. And we're going to go ahead and use that point-slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I take the point, and I plug it in. Y minus 2 equals the slope of negative 4 times by x minus 1. And that's it. That is point-slope. So when it says point-slope, they just want you to substitute the numbers into the formula and go that far. Later on, we'll go ahead and simplify a little further and put in a slope-intercept on some other problems. Let's take a look at this one. Here it says we've got a y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I'm substituting in y minus negative 5 equals negative 3/4 times x minus negative 8. So I just take the x value and I put that in place of x1. Take its y value, put that in place of y1, and take the slope and put it in place of m. And whenever I have minus negatives, I just go ahead and change those to add the opposite. So minus negative makes a plus positive. Y plus 5 equals negative 3/4 x, or times by x plus 8. That's the solution there. Well, let's take a look at these two problems here. Here it asks for the slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept is y equals m times by x plus b. So let me fix that. I don't need the parenthesis there. Y equals mx plus b is the slope-intercept form. But we have to first use the slope formula to find out what that slope is. So the slope formula goes this way. The change of y minus y1 over x minus x1. And then use point slope. So point slope is what we practiced on that last slide, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And after that, solve for y. Then solve for y. And so once we do that, it'll be y equals mx plus b. And that's the slope-intercept form that we need. So our first step is to find the slope. So again, we're taking the two y values, y minus y1 over x minus x1. So the two y values are, I'll start at negative 4, take away 1. So this point here, negative 4, take away 1. And then down below, I'm going to subtract the two x values. So I start at the 3 and then go to the negative 2. So 3 minus negative 2. Since I started with the negative 4 and subtracted 1, I've got to start with the same point's x value. So 3 minus negative 2. So when I have that, I change it to any subtraction. I'll go ahead and add the opposite. So plus negative 1, and then 3 plus positive 2. And so this ends up giving me negative 5 over 5, which just reduces down to negative 1. So that's my slope. Now pick one point. Doesn't matter which point. So you pick one point. And either point works. Either point. It doesn't matter. Just one point. And you'll get the same answer either way. So you just pick whatever seems easiest. I'm going to pick the negative 2, 1. So y minus 1 equals negative 1 times by x minus negative 2. So I just took this point 1, put it in for y1. Negative 2 goes in for the x1. The slope went in for m. And then I distribute. Now I'll go ahead and add the opposite real quick. Then distribute, and I've got y minus 1 equals negative 1x minus 2. So from that point, I'll add the 1 to all sides, and I'm left with y equals negative x minus 1, and that's our answer. So let's move on to the next one. Same sort of thing. You're finding the slope first. M equals y minus y1 over x minus x1. So I start with the two y values. 9 minus 6. So 9 minus 6. And since I started with the 9, I got to start with the negative 2. And I do negative 2 minus negative 8. So I'll add the opposites. And I end up with 3 over 6. So opposite signs, so I subtracted on those. And that leaves us with 1/2. So I'm going to use that slope, and I'll use one of the points. Doesn't matter which one. You take either point. I'll use the first one again. So y minus 6 equals 1/2 of x minus negative 8. So anytime you see that minus negative, you change to plus positive and distribute. So I've got y minus 6 equals 1/2 x plus 4. Half of 8 is 4. And I just go ahead and add the 6 to all sides. So when I do that, I've got y equals 1/2 x plus 10. So I got the 10 by adding the 4 and the 6. And that's our answer. So those are the types of problems you're going to see on tonight's homework. Good luck.